Hey everybody, and welcome to Thursday's Facebook Live. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you are safe, and let us know where you're all coming in from. I think we have a bunch of people from, where did we have there, Jennifer?
Ohio, Arkansas, Delaware, Colorado,
Georgia.
Georgia, Tennessee,
Awesome.
Florida, more Colorado, more Hawaii, Ohio,
Awesome. Well,
Texas, the UK,
okay, well,
Virginia, Carolina.
okay, well,
Want me to
you
keep
have to,
going?
no, you have to stop now, okay? Actually, I have my Vanna, my beautiful wife Jennifer here is with me, and no, she is not coming on camera today as well. Eventually, we'll get her to come on screen. I don't know when that'll be, but it will happen eventually. I will also get my boys on real soon. We're going to be planning more of these Facebook Lives, so give us, some thumbs up if you'd like to see some other family members come in on this. Give us, some hearts and stuff, because I think it'd be a lot of fun to get them involved. And actually, I'm feeling really, really blessed that number one, I'm home safe and sound, and I'm enjoying this time at home and not being on the road. Number two, just working with my family is incredible. If you guys have ever worked with family, there's a few bumps in the road that need to be worked out, but after that's done, it's all good. And actually, if you don't know me and you haven't seen any of our education before, I am fourth generation in my family business, and my boys are fifth generation, and my daughter's working with us now too. So it really is a family affair. So that's awesome. Now, a couple of things I wanted to go over real quick first, and that was I wanted to let you guys know that we have something for free. And I learned a long time ago that when you give away free stuff, people like you more. So we're going to start this out the right way. Who would like some free stuff? Give us thumbs up. Do we have some thumbs up going on? Hopefully.
There's a delay, but we know
there's a delay. Okay, I know they're coming because free is a magic word. Everybody loves free. And if you want these two designs, there's actually two designs that we did. They're available on our Facebook group, Machine Embroidery and Digitizing Made Easy. So if you haven't asked to join there yet, just send us a request and you can join up. And we have these two designs. And I'll just show you a couple of the samples, which I do have right here. Number one, I did this one as a thank you for people who did give us a testimonial regarding our Facebook challenge, or I guess our YouTube challenge for the Hatch Challenge, digitizing, and it's a free challenge. So if you want to learn how to digitize or give it a try, it's a great resource. And we had a ton of testimonials. We didn't even have to put out our last email. I think Jesse told me that we had like 70 testimonials come in before we even advertised it. But this was the free design that we gave, and it's the Deer's Legacy design. I kind of like this because it is actually a really, really low stitch count, and you can see it. My daughter actually is there in the picture having it on a t-shirt. So it's actually very low stitch count. And of course, there's a deer with a, a nice, what would you call that stitch? Well, it's a silhouette, but it's sort of a maze stitch that goes from the inside out. And we have a really cool font that we've just released that it's kind of like a biker's font. And we've had a lot of requests over the last year or so that we come out with this specific font, but I always have to make sure that I can legally reproduce a font and get a license for it. And I was able to find the license, but this is the Deer's Legacy design, and you can get this free, and it says EC instead of MC for Motorcycle Club, it's EC for Embroidery Club. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I did this actually on a towel as well. So this is.
Show me your matching tattoo.
Okay, well, I do have a matching tattoo here with a deer, but we're not going to get into that.
Right.
Tattoos offend some people, but I guess I'm sorry, I have a couple. But this one right here is actually done on our gym towels. So again, because it is really low density and it's almost like a knockdown stitch, it sews out beautifully on towels. The other one that we did, and this one I love, I came up with this one last minute. So if you did get this free design because you did a testimonial, then thumbs up. But just to make sure you're not upset, we're giving that one away for free to everybody, but we're also giving this one for free. So there's no complaining that we're giving away the free design after the testimonial, because this one is actually one of my favorites. It's the same font. It's the same idea with a really, really low stitch count. And this one is the social distancing champion. And I just love that whole idea with Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever, it is, but he's there, and he actually is right on the front, and that will make a great t-shirt. I know that any teenager kid, any, male from the age of 60 down to 13 will probably like this. So definitely you want to get that one and sew that out as well. So we had two different designs that we have free for you guys. And again, if you want to get those, it's at the Machine Embroidery and Digitizing Made Easy Facebook group. Then I'll just go to my next magical slide. We did at the same time just release the font pack. Actually, this font is called Iron Rider. And please keep in mind that the fonts that we have, the ESA fonts, are only for either the Wilcom E4 series program, it's the commercial software from Wilcom, or the Hatch software. We're a Hatch reseller. If you own Hatch or you own the commercial Wilcom software, then these fonts load right into the program. They join closest point. They're object-based. You can do pretty much anything you want with them, which is what I did with that. But the reason why I made these in 4 sizes, and again, it's that whole biker feel, is because I have it in a 20 millimeter size, which is just a regular satin stitch with turning satins, and that is 20 mil. Then I did it in a 2-color font, which is 40 millimeters. So this is a fill stitch with a satin stitch around the outside. The beautiful thing is, because it's object-based, you can change the fills on the inside and make them motifs if you want. I also did one of our flexi fills, which means that you can actually blow them up to big jacket backs, which is what I used for the designs that you just saw. I used actually this flexi fill, and I was able to put outlines like, the stem stitch outlines around it and do that fill on the inside. And then I did an applique as well. So we have it in 4 different font styles, but all the same font. So pretty much anything you'd ever want to do is available. And we don't normally put our fonts on sale on our font site because they are already reasonably priced, but because we released all 4 of these together, we do have them at 50% off for all 4 of them. So you get basically 4 fonts for 20 bucks, which is $5 a piece. So if you have the Hatch software and you're interested in that, we do have it. I think James is putting up a link on this because it's not on our regular font site, because it's not a font that you're buying. We have it in a bundle, and you actually will go to the page, you'll purchase it at half price, and you'll download all the files and load them into your software, and you're ready to go. So that was one cool thing that we just came out with. We are constantly coming up with new fonts. We have 750 plus fonts now and counting. And if you did get a chance to see the video that my son Jesse put up earlier in the week, we are starting a new font contest, and it's in our Hatch, our Wilcom Hatch Facts group. And the group specifically for Wilcom is where we kind of show the new fonts that are coming out. And we will have a contest there every single week. So this last week, we actually released one called Celtic Circles, which is that sort of blue circle around the outside. And we do have a contest there where you can actually type in the word win, and you can win a new font every single week. So keep an eye on that as well. We're always trying to come up with new stuff. And that's the first little thing out of the way. And now I'm going to go to actually the whole kind of reason why we were going to do this Facebook Live. And I'll back up a little bit and tell you guys a little bit of a story. And I'm going to get a little nostalgic here because I have digitized a ton of designs in my career. I've lost count, but it's 35 years in at this point. I digitized for our company when we had Shifley factories running for making emblems. Then we had multi-heads. We had a partner who had another factory that did jackets and sportswear and licensed goods. And then I branched out and started a company called Punch Perfect, and we digitized for all kinds of companies, and we evolved into what we are now. So we've been in this industry for 60 plus years, and I've spent my entire life in it. Well, a lot of the designs that I thought that I had, lost many years ago, because we all know that backups and hard drives are a lot better now than they were 20, 25 years ago. I mean, we had tape backups and all that kind of stuff in the old days. Well, I lost a ton of my designs. Like a huge database was just gone. Now, keep in mind that have used Wilcom for a long time, but originally I learned how to digitize one stitch at a time on a pantograph. Then we went on to board-based systems, and then eventually I tied up with Wilcom, and it was DOS-based, and we started doing object-based files. So most of the designs that I had done were actually converted to DST formats. Now, if you understand anything about DST or EXP, they don't have any colors assigned to them. They're just the X and the Y movement on the actual frame. So I thought that those designs were lost for a long, long time. And then I actually took a look on an old hard drive I had. And this is literally a hard drive right here that we took out of an old computer that we had when we had Punch Perfect running. And I had it here, and I did have an extra piece of equipment that I purchased where you can actually slide in a hard drive, hook it up, and see what's on it. And when I actually started this up, I found a huge database of designs that I thought were lost, but they weren't. What's that? Can I change the slide? Sure. Let's do this one. Okay. But they actually weren't the files that I originally digitized. This hard drive was actually my mother's computer in the sampling room, which means that when we actually did our designs, I would send them to our sampling room to proof them, and my mother would run them on a Tajima machine at that time, which read DST file formats. So I knew I lost all my originals, and I thought they were gone, and lo and behold, I found a whole bunch of files on this drive, and I haven't looked at all of them, but I'm guessing probably about 40 or 50,000 design files. And the good news is I did find a lot of files that I thought were lost forever. I did win a lot of awards in the old days. Actually, I'm going to go back in time a little bit and show you some of the stuff we did, just so you get a better understanding. This is stuff that my grandparents actually did back in the 70s. My grandfather did sales for our company, and we manufactured emblems. The original name of our business was called Dress Crest Embroidery. They did stuff for the garment industry, they did emblems, and we did embroidery, of course. And here's some cute little patches that we did for Disney. I've showed people these before, but these are original Disney patches from back in the 70s, and they have a marrowed edge on them, a marrowed border. And this is the type of stuff that we did early on, because early on, you had yard goods or you had emblems. You couldn't actually embroider directly onto a garment. Well, when I came into the industry, I spent the first little while learning how to punch for Shifley, which was one stitch at a time. And then we got Tajima machines in, and I started doing multi-head, which is a whole different, kind of ball game, because when you did patches on a loom, these patches were done on a loom that was 10 yards long, and you literally did hundreds of pieces at the exact same time, and you actually did a color and did probably 4 or 5 rows on the loom, and then you'd bring the loom back up to the top and you do the second color. So think of embroidering thousands of pieces on one loom and having to have everything line up, and there was no trimmers, trimmers or anything that would automatically back up. There was no backing up on these machines. So it was a totally different animal. Well, when we started digitizing on the, board-based systems, my very first machine was actually a Ultramatic. We had a Melco Digitrack, and Melco is a company that's still around, but the Digitrack was one of the first ones, and it didn't even have a Melco machine with it. It was before Melco started doing the machines, and it was a Ultramatic machine. This machine was so old that when you wanted to slow it down or speed it up, you had a little lever underneath of the machine, and you turn it clockwise to go faster and counterclockwise to go slower. That's how you controlled the speed of this machine. It embroidered beautifully, but this little thing here, I'm holding this, this is the actual cursor of my original Digitrack. And this is what you would literally hold. And there was a little keypad with buttons here, and you would put F09 for needles out, F11 for needles in, F51 for slow speed, F52 for flat. There was all of these functions and mark keys, and you literally went back and forth and digitized objects. And I remember in the early days, I didn't even use this plastic cursor that was here in the middle. There's a little sort of like a bullseye there. I actually had something retrofitted here, and this is actually a piece of plastic with a nail in it. And the reason why I did this is because when you put this onto this piece and you actually had it put in there, it would go with the point right to where the crosshair was. Because in the old days, we had a paper draft on a board, and we would literally push that pantograph into the paper so that we made a little mark in the paper so you could remember where you were. And I was so used to having that little mark that we ended up making these so that I could literally push on that little pin and it would make a mark on my paper draft. So I kind of go way back when when we're looking at this type of stuff. And then we move forward, and here is from one of my first mnemonics tablets, a 4-button cursor that we used to have. We used to have these menus on tablets, and we literally digitized. So we weren't doing things with a mouse in the old days. We actually did it on board-based systems. My wife is looking at me like, John, you're really boring right now, because she lived through all this with me. We've been together since I was 17 and she was 15. Does it feel like one lifetime, Jennifer, or 2 or 3? Okay, she's laughing. I got her to react. Okay, so anyways, that's a little bit of the background of where I came from as a digitizer. And I'm telling you all this because I'm going to show you some designs, and I'm going to show you in the software. And this is actually a couple that we recently found. I know that we had said in our description of today's Facebook Live that we would see some old designs. I found a very small grouping of original designs going back to the probably late 50s, early 60s. These are not vintage lace designs. A lot of our designs are freestanding lace. These are what we call heirloom designs. And I have enough, I think, for 3 more packs to be released. I don't have them completely finished yet. I don't have a release date for them yet. But the design that you see on the screen was probably done on tulle or organza originally, and done for yard goods or on very fine fabrics. And I'm going to call it up full screen for a second, just so you can see it. Now, here's how I know that it was actually digitized a long time ago, because when I zoom in to these objects, and if I look at them, you're going to see that they look very staggered and the spacing isn't consistent. Most designs that are digitized today with modern software, it's mathematical. You digitize an object, you put in the width of the space, and then everything's perfect all the time. You can tell that this actually has a stitch by stitch feel to it. So this is a design that's going to be very, very low density and was literally digitized decades, like 50 plus years ago. So we have a bunch of these coming out. I'll show you a couple more samples. This is one definitely that would be done on tulle or organza, but this was all manually punched 1 stitch at a time on a pantograph. So that's the beauty of these. And we have, how many designs do we have on our site that are old? Like maybe 800 in total between the lace and the heirloom. But we have maybe 830 or 40 now because we're going to be releasing a few more. But this is a vintage heirloom design. This is another piece that I found, but the really cool thing about this, and this is what I love about how they did it in those days, those Shifley machines with the big looms were set up in basically what was called quarters. So you had needles on the loom, and if you wanted a bigger design, you'd take every second needle out of the loom and it would make it bigger. You'd take another needle out and you'd have a different quarter. So you'd have 8 quarter, 16 quarter, 32 quarter, and it would increase the size field of each of the objects. Now it's kind of cool because that's how they did yard goods in the old days. They would literally have one design and change the needle on the loom. And the next slide I'm going to show you is what it would look like if it was increasing the quarters. So you can basically do an entire piece of yard goods by, in this case, we're repeating it with software. I just did this for this little event, but I have a whole bunch of these really cool repeating designs where you could literally fill up a huge sash frame or hooping and have one piece of continuous yard goods. And again, the beauty of this is they are, if I go to 6:1, if you give me a heart or a thumbs up if you now digitize at 6:1, if you've taken any of my education, because that's the way I've been doing it for the last 35 years, and that's the way they've been doing it for the last 135 years. But this is what the digitizer was looking at when they were actually digitizing the design. And if you look at all of the points, all of the penetrations, every single line that you see there was done manually. Yay! Okay, 6:1. I know that some educators say that, oh, that's all old school. That was in the past. People don't do that anymore. But I honestly feel that what was done decades ago, 50, 60 years ago, applies to the modern principles that we have. It makes us better, faster and more accurate. So that's one of my golden rules, is learning to digitize at a consistent scale. Now, here is another design, and this is where I love these. These are getting more and more intricate because these will also repeat. I can take that design, I can basically duplicate it, and then I can take this one and move it up here, and I can literally repeat that pattern so that it will just continue going on, and I can make the yard goods as long as I want. I mean, this is how the yard goods and the lace were done years ago on those big looms. And it really is a beautiful thing. I mean, if you do love these types of designs, especially if you're into heirloom sewing or classic, classic sewing, anything like that, these are the types of things that you'd put on those, patterns, those types of classic heirloom sewing dresses and everything that you see, the beautiful stuff that Martha Pullen's done over the years. This is the type of design that would do it. Now here, this is another pattern. Actually, it looks almost the same, but if you look, the design going down either side is the same. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think that, yes, in the old days, we digitized one stitch at a time on a loom, but we also would digitize or punch our designs on paper tape. It was jacquard paper tape. It was about this wide. It was kind of looked like cardboard, and it actually put commands and X and Y movement into that paper tape. And if you wanted to edit a design, you could edit, but you just had to know how to cut and splice the paper tape. So I didn't do this design, but I know for a fact that the puncher 50, 60 years ago would have done the main part of this design, which is this piece and this piece. And for this previous one, the only thing that they would have redigitized is the different types of floral decoration on either side. So, history is still there, and they used at that time it was modern. This was like, cutting edge stuff, being able to punch on jacquard paper tape. And I do remember reading paper tape in the old days and cutting and splicing and all that kind of stuff. So that's what's kind of fun about this. Now, here I will go on to this one, because I did digitize a lot of emblems in the old days. And this was even when we had Tajima machines. Now, you got to remember that in the early days, even with the multi-head machines, there was actually big multi-heads, but in the early days, there was no trimmers on them. You actually had multi-head machines with no trimmers, and you would literally have to trim all of the threads connecting objects afterwards. And you really had to make sure you digitized so you didn't cover up other areas, because then it would get trapped underneath of the letters, and then you'd have to pick it all out. Well, we actually would digitize our designs with a lot of theory and understanding how this is going to work. Now, I'm going to call this up to full screen. And this is a design that I did a long time ago, and it was done for an old 24-head Tajima machine. But when I turn the true view off, you're hopefully going to see a lot of these little staggered lines here. There is actually on the top and the bottom right here, there is a line at the top and a line at the bottom. You can kind of see it when I go here. There's a line here and here. Those are called trowel lines. And those trowel lines was how we used to handle the trims that would come into a design. So if I turn off the true view, I can see that when I came into an object, I would come into the E from the outside. So I'd be here at the bottom trowel line. I come into the E, and then I would have a stitch going over and back again. And then I would start to embroider. And people look at these old files and say, why did it go over and back with a jump? It's because in the old days, you had to make sure that you would pull a little bit of the tension from the top and the bobbin thread so that it created a little bit of ease on the thread, and then started stitching. If you didn't have it pull out and back again, and you just went right in and started stitching, you'd have thread breaks all over the place because there's too much tension drawing on the design. And then when you went out from the M down to the bottom trowel line, you'd actually go straight down over and back. Again, you're causing the frame to pull the thread out and come back again, so it creates a little bit of looseness in the thread so that it won't break right away. So this is the type of stuff that we used to have to deal with when we were actually digitizing designs. And a lot of people don't realize how much things have in a way changed. I mean, now we have trimmers. We don't have to worry about crossing over things. It's so much easier than it was in the old days. even if you go back to some of our early education, somebody posted an old picture of me on one of our Facebook groups back, and it was at least, how many years ago would you say, Jen? 20 years ago, maybe even more?
No. Well,
maybe 20,
15?
maybe a little bit more than 15. Because 15, it would have been about 18 or 19 years ago. My hair was brown. I looked much younger. And it's kind of funny because even in those days, if you listen to my education back then and you listen to it now, it has changed ever so slightly. My rules for stitches have changed from 15 or 20 years ago to now, because in those days, the machines didn't have the precision that they do now. The movement on the sash frames was not as precise. You know, we were dealing with basically mechanical movement, and now on most of the modern machines, we have stepper motors that, you know, will deal in just fractions of a millimeter. And now some of the newer high-end machines are servo motors where they actually are even more precise, which means that they're stronger, they move faster, and you can actually, you know, have just faster running embroidery. So my minimums have gotten smaller because the technology has increased, and that's what's kind of cool. Now I'm going to show you a couple of other cool designs. This one actually is not necessarily cool, but this was some of the old stuff that I found. Remember I was talking about DST files? Okay, the original size is this one here, and I'm going to zoom it in. This is an old copper tone design. And I remember this one, when it's in the right colors, it actually looks really good. And it was for a hat, but I found thousands and thousands of designs. John Deere, we used to digitize for John Deere, run with the best. So, you know, we did all kinds of corporate digitizing in those days. And things were very different as far as if I were to go in and show you the files, how we moved in things. We would have to allow for tensions. There's Sony.
Say that copper tone dog doesn't look like a dog.
It does look like a dog. It looked perfect when you did it in the right colors. Keep in mind that design was this big, the entire design, and it actually was run on a hat originally. But I should sew that out in the right colors. If you join me for another Facebook Live, maybe in the next week or two, I'm going to sew that copper tone design out. Okay, well, now my wife has challenged me. Challenge accepted. I'm going to sew that out, and I'll even post it in the group. So where you get the designs, the free designs, she did. Okay, anyways, we're going to do this. She's giving me looks, guys. Okay, now here, you know, here's just a couple of others. And I show these because these are tiny, tiny little letters. If you look at how small this is, that Bombardier, I mean, that is like literally, you know, 4 millimeters in height, but they were all manually digitized in those days. You know, even DreamWorks has been around for a while, but these are all designs that were done like 15 years ago. We did work for Levi's, and we did all kinds of, you know, cartoon characters. These were licensed. You cannot get these on my website. And if you look, the coyote colors are not really pleasant because that's an old DST file. And here we have Tasmanian Devil, okay, with the sun, I guess it looks like sunglasses, but it should be white, but it's actually black in behind his eyes. This one, you probably know who this is, Minnie Mouse, okay. Now here, this is a really old design. I digitized this one a long time ago, and you might be looking at some of these stitches that are going off in different places and saying, what is that all about? That is movement on the sash frame, because this was done at a time where we had to make sure that we pulled areas out and pulled them back in to allow for less tension drawing from the top and the bottom thread. So if you didn't have trimmers in the old days, you had to do things a lot more, you know, I guess a lot differently. This one, actually, the colors didn't look bad in this one, but you can see again where we pulled out. Here it ends, it goes out and back. It doesn't just go from one area to the other, because if you did that with a machine with no trimmers and you're running 24 at a time, you'd have about 10 thread breaks because there's too much tension drawing on the machines. Now here, another old Disney design, and this one. So my grandfather did designs for Disney, and then decades later, I did designs for Disney. This one I was kind of proud of at the time because this was a Disney design that I did at the very, very early days when I started doing 3D foam. So this was actually digitized for 3D foam, and we did a lot of foam designs. And I did find a foam design. I'm not going to show it to you on this Facebook Live, but I'll save it for another one. But I did find a really cool foam design that I'm going to show you guys later on. Now, this is actually what I wanted to show you. And this was one of the first times I ever did a technique that we called vermicelli. It was for a tree. And if you look at it, it doesn't look overly impressive, but the people came to me way back when and said, we want this done, but we want it to look like a tree. And rather than just stick a regular fill in there and, you know, just have it fill in the area and look kind of lifeless, I thought, well, let's do something a little bit different. So what I did was, and I'm going to take out the shapes, is I went in here and I digitized all of these little stitches. These are actually vermicelli stitches. It was it's not just pasta, but it was a technique that we used in the old Shifley days. And when you go to a 1-to-1 scale, which is actually right here, it actually gives you the illusion of a tree, because those tiny little stitches are allowing things to show through. So that was one of the first times I did that. Now, the next time I did it, I really liked that effect, and I did win a prize for this design years ago. And actually, that's the wrong one. Let's go here. There's Mickey. I guess Mickey's out of order. I thought I organized these. I did not win a prize for Mickey, but this was this one here. I did the vermicelli effect, but I did it actually on an alien, and I played with the density of it. So this is not a really big design. It was actually meant to be for this here. Actually, let me go out of the share screen because I want you guys to see this. This was kind of cool. We've always tried to be a little bit innovative with our marketing. And even back in the old days when we used to market for Punch Perfect, which was our punching company, I came up with a cool little catalog, which was actually a throw out here where you had all of our information and we explained what a satin stitch was, because in those days we had to educate our customers on what stitch types were. And on the front, I did a cover called the International Embroiderer, and I actually had a embroidered window pane on the inside. And we ended up going with this design here, which was kind of cool. But my original thought for...
Catherine's asking, can you show that design at 600%?
Yep, the one that I just had there. Yeah. I will. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay, so here's this design, which was supposed to go on this, I guess, price sheet that we did. And I'm going to go to 600%. And let's just zoom F6. And that's what we're looking at 600%. So when you look at it here without the true view, that's what you're seeing with all of those little lines. So there is 16,433 stitches within this design. And every single stitch that you see was punched or digitized using the most elementary tool in any software that exists today, a running stitch. Boom, boom, boom. I just did a running stitch. It was actually more work to plan it than it was to actually digitize it. Now, this is actually one of the designs that I'm proudest of. It was the last design that I ever digitized for a contest. It's this one right here. And it is the bridge design. And if you have seen this before, it's because it's behind me right here. If you have your little screen there, you can see me. I'll show it afterwards. This was the DST file. I had thought that I lost this file. And my mother luckily had it saved on that hard drive, and I found it. And I got to be honest, I said a little prayer of thanks because, it's part of my history. And other than the pieces of embroidery we did, I thought it was kind of gone forever, the original file. And I wasn't going to spend 4 days doing it over again. So if I zoom into this, this is where this design has 146,000 stitches. And I come right to here, and this is what we're looking at 6-to-1. So there is 146,000 individual stitches, very few trims. Everything is mapped and pathed and done. And this one did win a grand prize in 2001 in the Stitch Off for Stitches Magazine. Stitches Magazine is no more, but they were a magazine commercially back in the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s. And I did win a grand prize for the design that you see behind me right there. So here's the good news. I did actually take that design and I did colorize it, so to speak. I assigned the colors to it in the machine file formats. And I can see here now it's actually giving you a better rendition of the colors. So you're not seeing all of those strange, funky colors. And because this design was originally this size, if it's really big, And there are some machines that have hoops that big these days, but the hoop sizes have gotten bigger and bigger, but then a lot of people do have at least a 200 by 300 hoop. So I was able to resize it down to 200 by 300 and then in 3 more sizes up to the biggest size. And the cool thing is we do actually have it on our site now. I'm kind of really happy about this. So if you want to embroider a piece of history, you can actually get my 2001 Grand Prize bridge scene design. And we do have it on sale for 1 week only. It is in our Legacy Design Collection designs. Normally they're $19.99 each. For $14.99, you actually get all 4 sizes within the download. And I'll show this little video here. It won't take long, but it is pretty cool because it does so perfectly from beginning to end. I did not have a single thread break. There was a couple of funny little things where it did jump to the next color, make a couple stitches and keep going, but I can't control that. This was a DST file in the early days, but this one here did all of the design and I did not have a single thread break in it, even though I resized it from the original size all the way down to a 200 by 300 frame. So it's kind of cool. And I did actually, I didn't sign it 20 something years ago, but I did actually sign it for today's generation. And I do have it right here. Here's the original design. And I did actually put my little signature in stitches, of course, down at the bottom. So this isn't a 200 by 300. It's still 146,000 stitches. Whether you sew it, actually, I'll put it right beside so maybe you can see. Do you see how big the original one is? And then how small this one is? Okay, so the original design is 146,000 stitches. This design is 146,000 stitches because it's not object-based. It was done literally 1 stitch at a time. It took me 1 day to digitize the design. It didn't take that long. It took me 3 days to plan the design and to draft it or draw it properly because you had to mark all the start and stop points. And those of you who have taken my education, you learned all about mapping. Mapping is one of the most important things with any design. Do we have any questions coming in? Or maybe if there's no questions, then either I am boring you silly or I'm keeping you entertained. It's kind of one or the other, but I'm crossing my fingers that you guys are interested in this. This is getting really nostalgic for me. I am going to do a couple more Facebook Lives in the next weeks and months to come, showing you some of the other designs that I found. And some of them we will put up for sale on our site as well. But they did win prizes in the old days. And they're converted. I don't have the original EMB files. Keep that in mind because I've taught everybody, if you've taken any of our education, to always save your working files. These working files are long gone. I don't have them anymore. So that was that one. Now, the other announcement that I wanted to let you guys in on, and this one I am really excited about. This has actually been months in the making. We actually have partnered with a machine company. And for a very short period of time, we did sort of, I guess we were an ambassador for another brand. That unfortunately didn't kind of work out for whatever reason. But we actually were, I guess, approached by the company that I personally have always dreamed of working with. I have been in the industry my entire life. When we had 136 multi-heads running, they were all Tajimas. Tajima is one of the best machines in the industry. Barudin, or Barudin, however you want to pronounce it, they are another one that is one of the best in the industry. In the old days, we went with Tajima as opposed to Barudin because Tajima had the flat head, like you see most of them now with the needles. And in the old days, Barudin actually had a rounded head. And it was a difference, like flat or rounded. And I just thought the flat was more sensible. And as it would be kind of play out over the decades, now all the machines are the original kind of, flat, the way Tajima had it. But there was a brand that I always wanted to own, but to be honest, we couldn't afford it because it was the Rolls Royce of embroidery equipment 35 years ago. And even to this day, they are, in my opinion, the best in the industry. And that is our friends at ZSK. If you're Canadian, it's ZSK, but it is ZSK. Now here, this is actually a machine that is incredible. And we do have a video and a link sort of showing how and why this machine is engineered and does, what it does so well. And I got to be honest, I was a little bit upset because when this whole scenario with the pandemic started, my sons and I were in Seattle doing the sewing and stitchery expo, and then we were going back to Toronto, where we were going to pick up our ZSK machine to basically have to do our filming and all of our videos, and we had a whole bunch of stuff planned. And then we were supposed to go to Atlanta, and then we were supposed to go to Cleveland, and it was just supposed to go on. Obviously, everything got canceled. And I got the machine. We got it there. The gentleman who I've known for years, Eleanor, hey, Eleanor, if you're watching, he came over, trained us for an afternoon on how to use the machine. And then we were supposed to meet up like a couple days later, and lo and behold, the world stopped. And I also got out of Canada to see my beautiful wife because she was not in Canada at the time. I raced back to her one day before the border here shut down. So if I wouldn't have made it back when I did, I would not be with my wife for how many months now? I mean, we would have survived, I'm sure, but it would not have been good for either of us. So anyways, I feel like God has a sense of humor because I want to play with that machine so badly, and I haven't been able to. But my son James, and I want to just give him huge kudos on this, a big credit. He is actually, after one afternoon's training, learned that machine. He's using it every day. He's running samples. And I hopefully, God willing, I'm going to get back to Canada, my wife and I, soon, so that we can do lots of videos. So there's going to be lots of support, lots of videos, and we're going to be showcasing this incredible machine. Now, the cool thing as a partner is I don't sell the machine. We're working with ZSK in Germany, their head office. And if you're interested, you can fill out a form that we have, and we will forward it straight to head office. And then they will give it to the appropriate dealer wherever you're located anywhere. So just, submit that information. If you do choose us as, your, partner, we will give you some cool free stuff because we know everybody likes free. But this is something I feel really, really good about because I know that anybody who purchases this machine will have the best machine in the world. And here's the surprising thing. The machine itself, and we're talking just the machine starting at, is actually $15,000 for the 12 needle Sprint 6 model, which is incredibly affordable considering that some of the crossover machines, even on sale, are close to $12,000. So there's really not that much of a division between the price. And the reason why is you're buying commercially from, manufacturer to the dealer. It's not going through a huge infrastructure. So we will have lots more information on that, but check out the video. And if you want to fill out the form, please do so, and we'll get you in touch. But anyways, it's a really, really cool machine, and it does literally run at 1,200 stitches per minute. And that's on almost everything. It doesn't pucker. It doesn't, the tensions on it are actually at like 85 grams. It's really, really incredible. Any questions about the,
yeah. We have a question about the bridge seam. Somebody asked, what kind of stabilizing would you suggest for all the stitches?
For the stabilizer, for the bridge seam, and I'll take a couple questions right now. I have one more quick announcement after that, and then we're done. How far are we into this, Jen?
45.
Okay, so yeah, we're almost done, guys. But what I did was I actually took a piece of canvas because artwork can be done on canvas, and it's a nice, strong material. It's woven, so it will have equal pull in each direction. I used a piece of no-show mesh stabilizer. I did not use the fusible, but to be honest, I probably could have or should have. I just didn't have any here. I'm actually... Jennifer and I are in Costa Rica right now. We do not have a sewing dealer here where we're at. I wish we did, and Amazon does not deliver here. So I have run out of Wet and Gone. I've run out of my fusible. If anybody's planning a trip to Costa Rica in the near future and you're able to fly into the country, please, I'll give you an order of stabilizers to bring in with you because I've really run short. It would be ironic if somebody says I'm coming. But the one thing that I did do, which was really important, and I don't know if you can see it here, but I'll get really close. We do have a video on YouTube about how I use T-pins basically in where the hoops meet. So I did put 6 T-pins, 3 on either side on those long straightaways, and that really stopped the design from pulling together. But this is, and you can hear it's like a drum, and there's no movement on there. It's still nice straight lines as far as registration is correct. This design, if you hoop it properly, use a piece of canvas, some no-show mesh, fusible or non-fusible, and then put some of those straight pins or T-pins in on the straightaways, it will hold no problem.
Maybe James can put the
link to the T-pins. Okay, James will put the link there for this. So anyways, any other questions about the design or anything?
I'm curious if we've had any people, I know Rhonda's watching, but who else has done the lace mask?
Has anybody done the actual lace tutorial? I did an advanced digitizing tutorial on freestanding lace. It's something I said I would never ever do. For years I said not going to happen. It happened. I do have a little, please do take some of our other education first before you tackle it. But has anybody else tried the freestanding lace? I know that the people who have said that they're amazed at how much small detail goes into creating all of the little stitches. And that really is going back to those old school roots that I showed you in some of those early designs. Everything was done pretty much one stitch at a time. I got to admit, I cheated a bit and did use some of the objects-based digitizing.
Okay, yep. Penny says she has. Awesome. Stacy says it's on her to-do list. So,
awesome.
Yep.
Okay, and I do have more advanced classes coming out. Now that I'm home more, and Jennifer seems to like it when I'm in my office working for some reason. I'll be coming out with a lot more education, I can guarantee you. She's laughing here, but I know it's the truth. Okay, now last one real quick, because this is kind of just around the corner, is we do have our second Fun Effects webinar. That's August the 22nd. And that is 2 different time slots at 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're on the other side of the globe, either side of the globe, in the middle of the globe, wherever you are, one of those 2 times should accommodate you for the most part. We do have a sort of a lecture demo where I do show people how to do Fun Effects embroidery. And the cool thing is I'll show you how to do all the designs that we list. We give you the tutorials, we give you the design files, and you get to download those and then do it at your own convenience. And you do get to, keep all of the tutorials and everything that goes along with it so that you can do all of the stuff afterwards. So you aren't physically doing all of these techniques with me during the webinar, but we do spend an hour and a half, go over them, and then you can do them at your own time and at your own pace. Also, as a bonus, we do include my Embroidery Basics webinar, which is another hour and a half. So it's 3 hours of education. And that is actually $37 until July 31st. So it's still on early bird. We have extended it, and we might just we might keep it there because I know that these are kind of financially trying times for everybody. So we've tried to make our education reasonably priced for what people receive. And I hope you guys feel that we do offer good education at a fair price. I am a businessman. I do need to pay my employees, my family, my children, all that good stuff. But my stabilizers, yeah, and of course the mule fee for you bringing it into the country for me. But that is happening on the 22nd of August, and that will be a lecture demo. So if you want to sign up, I'm sure James will put the link there as well. That's already there. Awesome. He's way ahead of me. And other than that, I'm hoping that within the next maybe week or 2, I'm going to be doing another Facebook Live. So we'll maybe go 2 weeks between, just so you don't get too sick of me. But the next one, I am desperately trying to talk my sons into doing the next Facebook Live with me, because James is the video man and the machine guy, and Jesse is our marketing guru and all that. And we have some other big announcements coming up as well. So hopefully they'll be around for that one. Anything else? Or
any questions?
Any questions while we're here? Just send them through right now, and Jennifer will read them off to me. I can't do is proven if you did take our last workshop, because I had to do all these buttons by myself and teach, that I cannot do more than one thing at a time. It was proven. I had the idea that I could, but no, I can't. So Jennifer has to read these off to me. Any coming in, Jen, or are we good?
Well, I have a time delay, but
Okay.
I think
For the most part, we're good?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, download those free designs. If you're interested in any of the other stuff, I am really, really happy that I found some of our history, and I will be doing little snippets and showing other designs that we've done as well. Some of them that I've shown samples for years, I thought the files were lost, and now they are found. So that's good. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. As soon as I get back to Canada, we're going to be releasing a lot more YouTube videos that are machine based. Yep.
Linda is asking, will you be doing any large scene design classes?
Ooh, we're talking advanced classes for large scenes. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I should say never. Maybe one day I will. It would have to be almost a paint by numbers thing. And to be honest, if I did a large scene class, like some of the stuff that you see here, which are really, really big scenes, those would probably be like 4 parts as far as, 6 hours worth of education. I don't even know how I would do it. It would have to be almost a paint by numbers thing where I section it into groups. So quite possibly. We do have a list of advanced classes that we are going to be releasing, and that one is at the bottom of the list. So
lots of thank yous. Awesome. And keeping people company. Stacy says she enjoys you keeping her company because she's alone a lot during the week, and a lot of people are enjoying the education. Awesome. And your history.
Well, then we're doing our job, and I just want all of you to know, my wife and I and our family, we really do feel that all of our customers and everybody we interact with is a blessing. So we do appreciate you, and I do pray for my customers, every day. It's a family business, but we're all kind of in this together, and we're doing what we love to do, so we're blessed. I got to be honest though, the whole social media thing sometimes gets a little trying, but I'm sure you all experience that. But it's all good. I think it's all good if we just be nice and kind to people. With social media, I always try to treat people as if I were right across from them, looking them in the face, and that's how you should talk to people, right? With respect. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll put my last slide up to prove that I can do more than one thing at a time. But
and who wants a copper tone dog soda?
Yeah, who wants? Okay, and I'm gonna sew the copper tone dog tomorrow, or maybe no, hold on. On Monday, I'm going to sew the copper tone dog, and I will have it to show you at the next Facebook Live. That I do, God willing, promise, unless something unfortunate happens. So anyways, thanks guys. Take care.